Just gonna keep messing with a few things here.
All right. So we are good.
Oh, yeah, that's better.
Um, all right. So we have Colton Muheim here,
Muheim.
local artist extraordinaire. So I just wanted, let's start off with a little background. I know like we talk a lot at the cons, but it's
hmm
always about like stuff that's going on. And I don't think we've never really hung out outside of that. I don't know if
Not
we've had lunch
yeah.
before.
No,
Yeah,
we
I
never
think
really
we,
have. It's always
yeah,
been it's always been conventions. We always met up, talked, drew stuff for your kids.
yeah, yeah.
That's about it. Like, yeah, I haven't really. Yeah, we never actually really just sat down and just talked to. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right.
So let's get a little background. What got you into art, and then where did you go from there?
That's a good question, actually. I mean, me getting into art, I've always been artistic, I guess, in a way. Like any artist would know this. Of with being artistic, you think differently than most people, just because you see everything differently, and that's just how it kind of works. But I always knew I was different, and there was always something there. And just drawing when I was a kid, like when I was in school and all that, like teachers and me would kind of get in arguments on occasion just because I'd be sitting in the back room, like drawing things out of video game magazines and just like kind of copying things I just liked, fan art stuff. And
Yeah,
yeah, it
I
was
think
mostly
every
middle
artist
school.
can relate to that. Getting in
Yeah.
trouble for drawing in class.
I got in trouble so much, like, and then teachers didn't like hate me for it. They're just like, okay, we like you being creative, but we need you to do this task. I'm like, well, that task's done. Can I just do this then? They're like, okay, well, put a little bit more effort into this, and then you can go do whatever you want. Which kind of brain my whole brain set at the same thing is like the more you work, like you always anytime you find free time, just be doing something you like doing. And art became that one that I always just did in my free time. And then, God, it just it's a wild ride. I'll tell you that
Yeah,
much. Like out of like high school and all that, I never actually was going to be an artist or actually trying to be one. I always knew I wanted to draw and be like an artist for a living, but never could find the right avenues to do all that stuff. And then got out of high school, went to college, kind of worked a little bit, found out I didn't work well with teachers at the time, but I was also still a very rebellious kid. So me and authority never really got along at the time.
right.
But um but now then we fast forward after that, like I found Never Drink and Draw was one of my biggest influences back then. Meeting up with my best friend Kundi-san, which I think you probably know who. Kundi, he's a fantastic, amazing artist, and he's the one that actually kept me drawing because I was actually at that point where I was actually getting ready to quit and just say I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. And then met up with him randomly at a concert, and we became really good friends. He brought me over to his house. We started drawing. He introduced me to Never Drink and Draw, which exploded and had a whole bunch of different things happen during that. There were so many people there, people that were telling me I'm on the right path, just keep doing what you're doing. People that were gone to colleges and got their degrees, and even people that never did degrees were all saying you're on the right path. So I just kept doing what I did, kept drawing, and then Denver Drink and Draw kind of disbanded a little bit right there and kind of moved off into different directions, and I just couldn't keep up with them anymore. And then I found the one I'm more notorious for, which is Red Team Go
Right.
up north. And when that all started, it was kind of the same way that we were with Denver Drink and Draw. We were meeting at a Perkins up in Broomfield that's now closed, but we'd always just be in the back, meet up for coffee, and doing all this other stuff. Yeah, all those guys. Yeah, it was a really good group. And we did a lot of cool things. It was at first it was just a group that we all just got together, like-minded people, drawing, doing all this crazy stuff. Um, just throwing ideas back and forth, helping each other out. It was more of a support system more than anything. And then, God, what was it? I want to say 2 years later after I joined them, I just noticed that so many people kept coming in with so much talent and so much to offer for the community that were just being reclusive at the same time. That they would take all their stuff and just run back and just go hide and be like, all right, cool, here's my stuff, bye. And then they would just disappear or just try and do everything on their own. And Red Team Go, how it started was I was trying to get everybody to understand how the comic book industry works and getting them prepared. So if they ever did get signed on with like Image, Dark Horse, Marvel, DC, any of those guys, they at least have a good brain about what they're expecting when they walk in the door. And it worked out pretty well. We had what, 6 comics, I think, something like that,
Yeah.
run before everything kind of imploded on itself a little bit. But yeah, we did comic conventions. We were helping people get tables so they can get experience. It was all about getting people experience, and it was not anything to do with profit. All
Yeah,
the
and for a
profit was
while,
going
you
back to help
guys
people.
were, yeah, it was awesome. You guys were blowing up, man. I mean,
Yeah,
the books were
God, it was.
going,
Yeah, it
the,
went strong for 5 years. We blew up for
yeah,
5 years straight, and then it just it just died. I mean, we were never meant to be a one-stop shop. I tell everybody that we were never meant to be the one-stop shop. We were here to help everybody get to where they wanted to be. If you wanted to, this be your one-stop shop, you're more than welcome to try and make it happen. But when we started, we were 40 strong, and by the time, I wouldn't say it's ended. I just know it's just not active anymore. I know I'm not a part of it anymore or anything like that. But like by the time it ended, there was like maybe 10 of us that were actually still very active. So, and then everybody wasn't more it was more active as within themselves and doing their brand and building themselves up, which was fantastic to see. Like Shauna Morrow, she was fantastic. She's doing a lot of great stuff right now. Brian Sims, he's doing great stuff too. Like he was doing the storyboards for, God, what was that movie that just, it's super B-rated, like dinosaurs with machine guns on their bodies and stuff like that.
oh yeah,
Yeah, he was doing the storyboards for them.
oh, that's
Yeah, and
crazy.
Shauna's been applying for Netflix animation. Like all these, like a whole bunch of them have been doing amazing things lately, and it's so cool just to see like we help them build them and get them a platform that they could actually figure out how to make it work. And then it just kind of died down, and I figured, since no one's really being very active or interested anymore, I'll just do my own stuff. And now with that, it took me actually to really sit down and consider for about a whole almost 2 years actually, I would say, um, going back to school. And that's what I'm doing right now. I'm just going to school, doing side stuff on when I have time, but like art school in itself is another 40-hour week job, and I'm only doing 2 classes a semester, plus doing 40 hours, working at an actual day job at the same time. So just working on my skills, getting them better, and hopefully one day doing all this stuff for a living, either with a company or by myself. I really don't care.
Yeah, and yeah, going to school is it's tough, man, especially when you're
Yeah.
working and then when you're also trying to kind of side hustle with things,
Hmm.
it can be time consuming for sure.
Oh yeah.
Um, so you mentioned your buddy that kind of got you back into drawing or kept you into
Yeah,
it.
Kundi. Yep.
Um, do you have any other great influences in your life that you attribute your learning from or
Yeah.
continuing to that kept you going?
Yeah. Kundi was my first one who really got me going and really got me to not give up and keep drawing. Some of my other influence, I mean, big name people, Todd McFarlane's, he kept me going the most with the Red Team Go, just because he's like just a business brand alone. He's amazing, but also he is actually one of the artists that constantly always says you got to keep adapting to the system. You can't just be drawing like you were in the 80s. You have to also start adapting your art skills to keep moving up with how the society's running with it too, like up into the 90s. Like looking at stuff from the 80s when he was doing Spider-Man and all that stuff to now what he was doing with Spawn in the 90s are still very night and day. If
Yeah,
you look at his styles and the way he even wrote some of his stuff and that as well. But like even now, you look at his stuff he's doing now too. We're at 2020 now, and it's still, you could see the improvements he's making every time because he's choosing to improve and not locking himself down.
right.
But he's one another big inspirations as well. Fantastic. Like I never met him in person. I'm actually kind of terrified if I ever do. But I've always been that person who's like never meet your idols, because the ones I have met, like they're great, but there's always something when I do meet them that just instantly flips it over, and then I kind of lose interest after a while because It's and some of them it's not even them. Some of them it's actually been like their significant others. Actually, is the reason why it just turned me off, just because they were very pushy. Like, yeah, I understand conventions and that you're meant to be there for sales and that as well, but when you're being brought in as a guest, your main objective for that, in my eyes, is for your fans,
Right.
not for the money, because they're already paying your way to be there.
Yeah.
Yes, I understand the extra money is great. Yes, you probably do need it and all that stuff, but like your fans are the first things that should be your priority when you get there. And believe me, I come from a sales background. I totally get the whole sales pitches and everything, and having someone else there to try and push all your stuff, and that's great. But like one incident I had when I was sitting there talking to the artist, and we were having a great conversation. I asked him things that he's been posting on YouTube and things that he's never talked about. I was like, out of everything I've watched out of yours, you never actually mentioned anything on this. So do you have any input? He's like, he actually stopped drawing, put everything down. Actually, we were having a good conversation for a good like 20 minutes about his process and how he does things and how he actually came to be what he was doing. And then next thing you know, their significant other came over and instantly turned that whole conversation of me learning into a sale. And me coming from sales, it instantly turned me off because I already knew exactly what was going on. And I just kind of looked at their spouse and I was like, I'm actually gonna step out. Like I'm good. I was actually gonna buy something, but after they already were being super pushy, I was like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
Which also sucks because like after that, like about a month or two later, like I just kept losing, and it wasn't losing respect for them, but losing just respect just because of how they let their own table be ran when it's their table. And I understand they're probably hiring their spouse or bringing their spouse along to help them out with that side, but like there you got to also learn how to make guidelines at the same time. That was the same thing even when we were doing RTG. When we're drawing, like we always had someone there just talking about the what we do and how everything works. And if the artist stopped and put down to talk to a kid, like you let them do that because we were there to inspire also the kids to get into comics and get into drawing and actually help them out. I can't name how many times I gave away art supplies because kids were saying that they couldn't afford it or they really want to get into this but they don't know where to start, and I would give them like like packets of markers and be like, hey, this is a great way to do it. You have a pencil and pen, right? Yeah. I'm like, cool, now just outline it. Here's your inks, start playing with that, look up tutorials, look up all this stuff. And if we ever stopped and did that, like everybody, even the people that were standing in line, totally understood what we were doing. They just let us do. But that's also on my end for that. We were a big enough group that we could actually do something like that. We had 5 people, usually at each table, 3 to 5, that if one of us stopped, the others could pick up the slack. But that
Yeah.
was, it was how I built it. I built it up to actually make it work that way. And I understand when it comes to conventions, like it's hard. But yeah, I would definitely say Todd McFarlane was my next biggest one. God, I have so many that I can think of, and that's just more just
Well,
art
and
styles
you
alone.
guys doing your tables didn't just inspire kids and teach kids. You inspired
Oh my
adults
God,
and taught other
yeah,
artists. I mean, I when I came over one time, you and Oi Bob were working on your watercolors, and you
yeah.
were using watercolor pens.
Oh my
I've always
God,
used brushes,
yeah.
and I didn't even know about the watercolor pen.
Bob is
And I was
actually one
like,
of my other inspirations
these
as
are
well.
awesome.
Like Bob got me into watercolors and everything as well. I lived with him for a good year, I think a little over a year actually, but I knew him. I've known him for years, and just watching where he started and where he's at now, he's always adapting his style and always changing everything and playing. Like he could do amazing stuff. There's another guy down south named Wayne Green, another amazing artist that you just flash him a style of anything, and he already knows how to draw it, and he can adapt everything into that. It's crazy, but like and he's the one that runs Chimera, or one of the ones that started Chimera down in the Springs, Colorado Springs there. But there's most of my biggest inspirations are actually local, more than actually big name people, and I think it's more because I've actually been able to see them from ground zero to where they're at now and watch them do their grinds and watch them actually build up to where they're at and actually sit down and talk to them just as friends and people to actually see what their passions are and being able to at least give them some kind of input and push them in the right direction if they ever ask for it. But there's so many, like Colorado alone has some amazing talent, and it's just crazy that I'm actually technically part of that.
Yeah, I mean, we do. We have some great local artists, and we if you go all across the Front Range from Fort Collins
Oh
down to
my
Colorado
God,
Springs, you'll find awesome artists that go to conventions that are located in all of these different areas.
they're everywhere.
And yeah, I was talking with AC Canales the other
Oh
day, and
yeah,
and
AC, I
uh,
love AC.
we were talking about, yeah, AC is awesome. And we were talking about the same thing, how there's so many great artists here in Colorado.
Yeah,
Like, so when we put on the minicon, it's all local artists because we have this huge pool to
yeah.
draw from.
Well, yeah,
It's
and you guys
great.
do kid stuff as well, which is actually one of the coolest things because you'd never see that at big name conventions. And I could talk about that with other big name shows that here in Denver and all that stuff, but I prefer not to, at least not badmouth them because that's their own deal. But that's just because I know all the background stuff, and that's the
Right.
worst part. But like, there is kid presence in some of those shows. Don't get me wrong, but they are still built for adults.
Yeah.
Now, actually having full blown kid sections and things that are actually pushed towards kids definitely makes a big difference because they're the next generation. They're the ones that have to take over what we're doing anyways. It doesn't matter like if you're going to be in this until the day you die, but like these kids are going to be the next thing that's going to come through, and that's the part that is the super like that was the most inspiration to me with Red Team Go was that like seeing all these kids. Some of them would like I would draw them a piece, they'd come back with their own pieces like here you go, I'm giving you a trade. I was like, what the heck is this? I have a folder of them, they're great. I gotta go dig them out, but like yeah, these kids would just come back like drawing their own dinosaurs or like their own representation of what I drew. I'm like, what are you doing? You should be sending them back here. Come back here, sit with me. Like God, it was crazy. Yeah, like the kids are the very important part. I mean, everybody, it's a generational thing. Like even when you have kids, you're giving your next like your next step in life is giving it to your kids, and hopefully you're doing better for them. Where if we could show that in comics as well, or even just art in general, just art as a whole, just getting kids to be more creative because just creativity in just the business world has changed drastically as well. Creatives are being more sought after than just being asked to do a certain thing every once in a while. Like, hey, we just need you to do like this quick little like painting that we need, like a caricature of this president or whatnot. But no, they're actually being sought after because the businesses are realizing that big name businesses are realizing that they need creative people to make changes that they haven't been able to do.
Right. So one question I've been asking in these little interviews is, now that we have such a weird environment with the cons canceling and all this, do you have a
Protests and
favorite?
everything.
Yeah, yeah, it's so strange. Do you have a favorite con memory
Con memory.
that you'd like to share?
I'm gonna leave drinking out of it. Because that's a whole different world once you hit after Confloor's closed.
Yeah.
Uh,
No, favorite in con memory, not after con memory.
yeah, no. Actually, meeting one of my favorite artists actually that still is actually one of the better ones. His name's Adam Braze or Andy. Sorry, Andy Braze. Sorry, I messed that up. Andy Braze. He does fantastic inker. Oh my god, I have the ink work he does is fantastic, and he was at Denver Comic Con the last year that they were Denver Comic Con, and also the last year that Red Team Go had a table. I had a friend that walked up. We just met that week because she came in from Seattle, and she was hanging out with one of our friends. She was crashing at her house, and she came back. Like they would always come back to our table, drop off stuff like everybody does when you have your own table. You're like, you just tell your friends, just come drop it here. At least it's safe. Just make sure you pick it up before condors close, so I'm not carrying all this stuff out and trying to find you. But yeah, meeting him was actually really cool. I walked up. She walks up to me and she has his print in his hand, and I freaked out. I was like, "Where the hell did you get that?" Because I thought someone was scalping his stuff. Because that's a very common thing in comics in the convention world as well. And I was like, "Where'd you get that?" She's like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "Where did you get that print? I know that guy. I don't know him, but I know of him." But I was like, "I know that guy. Where? is he actually here, or did you buy that from some random person? She's like, what, like freaking out because I was kind of very intimidating about it because I was like making sure that she bought it from the actual artist and not bought it from a scalper.
Right.
So, and then she was like freaking out for a second, like her eyes got all big, like I was gonna like jump her over the table. And then my other friend who knows me well just is like, come with me, I'll show you where everything is, because she knew what was going on. And I had my friend Terry was sitting at the table right there. I was like, can you just watch the table for like 5 minutes? I gotta go see. And I ran down with her. We ran over to his booth, and it was him. And I was so starstruck that I couldn't say anything. I was just like tongue swollen in the back of my throat. I was like, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. What do I say? I don't know. And I'm just like flipping through his prints, just very casually, flipping through all of his stuff and just looking around. And then my friend, she was dressed up as Hell Girl or Hellboy, female Hellboy, whatever, Hell Girl. I don't know what you call it, but she comes over and just like bumps me. He's like, "Fuck, you need to say something." I was like, okay. And the guy, like, he was sitting there on his notebook, like writing things, just like taking notes of like his sales and everything. He just kind of kept glancing at me, and then finally he kind of, I think he heard her, and he just kind of stops and just stares at me for a second. I was like, "Hi," but then like 2 seconds later, he kind of talked for a few seconds, and then finally I just like opened it up and I just started talking and asking him all these questions. But he was a really cool guy. Like, he explained how he got into the industry and everything as well, and how he stayed in the industry and his processes and how long it takes him to do a piece. Because if you see his pieces, they're not no 11 by 17. He's doing like huge ass pieces. Like, I don't know, I can't remember the actual dimensions, but he shrinks them down for prints. But like the details that he puts in there is just astounding, and the time of work. Like some days he puts 300 hours just into one piece.
So like poster size?
Yeah, almost. They're almost posters. Some of them are even. I've seen some. Yeah, no, yeah, poster. Yeah, regular poster size.
That's
He does them.
crazy.
Yeah, he does them
And it's all
huge.
like
It's
hand
hand
done.
drawn. It's all hand drawn,
Wow.
inked,
Holy cow.
everything. Like his inking and his hand and his pencils are all hand drawn. If he ever does color, he does it digitally just because it's quicker. Because he already put 300 hours in just the inking and everything.
Right.
And if you ever look up Andy Bray's, like his detail work is the part that I aspire to be. At least aspire to at least attempt one day, and hit that point where I could actually do something like that and just be like blow people's minds away just by looking at it. It's awesome. But yeah, that was one of my favorite moments. And the other one, actually the other biggest one, was actually the kid. It was the first kid that ever brought me a piece of art after I drew him something. It was at a oh, what's that comic shop in Aurora? Allseas? Is it Allseas
Yeah, all
Collectibles?
season Aurora.
Yeah, I was out there for their free comic book day because they have the little spare room. They have all the artists in there. I was invited over there by Steve Palawa. And Palawa? I can't remember how
Pula,
he says
yeah.
that. Yeah. I was invited there by him. I went there, and this kid comes over and asks me for a dinosaur. And I was like, yeah, anytime, man. I'll draw you a dinosaur. Yes, that's him. Look at that ink work. Look at all that
That's
little
amazing.
detail. And this stuff is like 22 by 30. It's so big.
Wow.
His
That is
lighting, the way he
crazy.
manipulates light with his inks is amazing. That one that you're clicking right now, I actually own that piece. It's not the traditional, it's the print. So,
That's
but
wild. And do you have,
yeah.
were you able to get any original art from him?
No, the ones I wanted were his oldest pieces that he had at his thing. He says, "Oh, I have his prints left. I don't give away like the old stuff he's kept because he knows it's going to be worth something someday."
Yeah.
He is like the thing I like about him is he is that artist that if he knows he's got good shit, he's gonna keep it because he
Right.
knows that it's the artist syndrome. Once you get really good, or even if you don't get really good, once you die, you're gonna be worth more.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So
Amazing
he
work.
has like, yeah, his work is amazing. All that detail work, and that's the part I want to aspire to be. Let's be able to drop all that little bit just into his stuff. But yeah, no, like I was saying with the kid though at All Seas, it was my first time ever having a kid ever come up to me and give me an art piece, and I was really confused at first. I drew him a pterodactyl because he asked for a dinosaur. I was like, all right, I'll draw you a pterodactyl. I drew him one, and I handed it to him. His eyes got all huge, and he ran away without saying thank you or anything. I was like, okay. And his mom's just like, what the hell? Where are you going? Get back here. And then she follows him. They go outside, and he comes back like an hour later with his own piece of like 4 dinosaurs all clapped together, and he's like, "Here you go." And I was like, "What?" And I was like, "What's this? Did I drop this or something?" And I looked at the mom. She's like, "Oh, that's yours. He actually made you a piece because he really loves the piece that you made him, and he wanted to make you something as well." And I was like, my heart broke.
Oh.
It was so I was like, "What the hell? Who brought like?" What the heck is this? I looked at his mom. I was like, why did you breed this? Like, I don't want feelings right now.
That's oh man, that's
He was
cool.
a great kid. Oh my god! And then he actually like every once in a while he used to pop up every once in a while and just say hi when we just talk. We talk for like 5 seconds because like he was like I want to say like 8 years old or something like that, maybe 13. Like he was in that age range, and he was a cool kid. And then your daughter's always amazing as well. Like she's hilarious. She gives me some of the
She's
weirdest ones out there. I'm like, I'm
she's a
in. I don't
hustler,
care.
man, and she
She's
tries to
great.
she I swear she's tried to stump you a few times. In
Oh, she's
fact,
got me
so
multiple
I
times, and like I think it was like right when we started, she got like 3 pictures out of me without me realizing. I'm like, okay, you look
yeah.
familiar, but I'm not. Like I just saw like 500 kids run by because it was at Denver Comic Con, I think, and she like came by like a few times. I'm like, okay, and then finally she comes back, and I saw all three in her hands. I was like, oh, you little.
So I took pictures of some of them. So here's
Yeah.
one.
The raccoon with the cookie. Yep.
There's
The
a
tentacle
tentacle
cats.
kitty. There's
The banana
banana
cat.
cat.
Yeah. She would just give me some random ones. I'm like, okay, that's a new one. I'm in. Because most people
Yeah.
were only asking for like Spider-Man, Batman, Deadpool. The Deadpool one really still rubs me the wrong way, but that's just because of who Deadpool is as a character. I really don't believe kids should be knowing about Deadpool yet. And Harley Quinn, another one I don't really think people should, but that's just me on a personal level, just because of their backstories and how
Right.
dark they are as
Yeah.
characters. Like,
Well, and
and
the books are a little bit more adult oriented.
yeah,
They're not
even
really
the
for
jokes, like
younger kids. Yeah, there's the jokes are a lot of like adult puns
a
and
lot of it goes over kids' heads. They don't understand what
yeah,
they're reading, and that's the part that like kind of worries me a little bit because I'm like, it's not that certain kids are old enough to know who these characters are. It's the ones that are like under 10 years old that really like confuses me on like how did you hear about these and like why are they your favorite character, and then you watch the cartoons and that as well. I'm like, okay, like all you get from Deadpool is that he has a mouth and he likes to run it.
right,
And it's funny, especially when you bring it into a kid context. It's funny, but when you actually know who Deadpool is and what he actually does as an actual character, it becomes the whole Punisher syndrome. Like, this is Punisher. You don't show kids Punisher until a certain age
right,
because it's a bloody, gory scene. Yes, I understand Deadpool. Like, I love X-Men. It's my favorite thing I grew up with my whole life was X-Men because diversity, everything, fighting for what's right, pretty much what's going on right now in the
right
world.
now. Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I support
It's an
everything right now
allegory
because of that.
for yeah, it's an
Yeah.
allegory for that, and it's one of those allegories that comes back into the mainstream over and over again.
All the time. All the time. And it's the same thing. Like everybody's saying, like, I can't tell you how many times with everything I post right now, people keep throwing Martin Luther King quotes at me, and I keep throwing them back at their face because I'm like, you're not reading the full quote. You're reading this little tiny tidbit that just sounds good to you, but you're not reading the actual full description of what his speech was for these. And it just brings people into like, it's this whole past week for me has me just pretty much trying to knock people's blinders off because everybody puts up their own blinders to everything that's going on in the world. Everybody keeps saying I can't believe the world is the way that it is right now, but here's the thing, it's always been this way. It's just now people are finally actually stepping back up into a media standpoint, into the open, because we have Facebook people that are documenting things with their phones. We have Zoom, we have Discord, we have Twitter, we have all these different avenues that we can finally start videotaping this stuff. But it's finally bringing it to the eyes of everybody again of like, no, racism has not been gone. It's always been there. It's just been kind of snuffed down until you had the freaking, what do you call it? The Tiki Torch guys down in Georgia.
Yeah,
Like that's when I finally like that's when my blinders came off. Like I knew it was there my whole life, and I was always aware of it, and I did stand up for it when I had like when I was able to, but I never knew how bad it was until I saw that a few years ago. And then now we're in today where we can all start making even a bigger difference because it is an actual movement now, a huger movement, that I'm actually been very active in a lot of this to help out with what's going on because I do agree that we have a problem. It is, yes, COVID-19 is also another problem that we're having right now, and it's probably going to be even worse after everything that's just been happening. But if you aren't willing to risk your life for something that actually does matter, then that is even a bigger problem. I personally feel, and that's why yes, I'm still taking my precautions if I go out or even whatnot. I wear a mask. I do all this other stuff. Make sure I clean my hands. All that things. I also work in a hotel, so I have to do all that as well. So I do a lot of precautions, but I still will. I still go stand with people because this is a actual pandemic of racism that all my friends, even I've been not racist wise discriminated against, but I have been discriminated against, especially in my past because I grew up as a punk.
Right.
I wore jackets, patches, everything. I had the big boots. I was a goth. I was all those. I got discriminated all the time. You had the wrong one patch that someone thought it meant something else. You would get so many dirty looks throughout the whole store you walk through. And half the time it's just a band and they don't know. But it's also
Yeah,
what they stand
well,
for and stuff like
remember
that.
the Black Flag patch that had the cross in it,
Yeah.
and people would always think that that was a white power patch.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was ridiculous, man. I mean, they make assumptions before they even
Oh
know what
yeah,
they're talking about.
exactly. I mean, there was even I had some friends that had no idea what certain racism signs were. Like there's friends that had Confederate flags because they grew up in the South, so they just thought it was normal. And then moved up here, and people started explaining to them is like, hey, why do you have that? Asking
Yeah.
them questions, and then they're like, well, it's I'm from Georgia or like deep South, whatnot, and they're just like, so here's a history book. We're going to talk about this for a second. And next thing you notice, they got rid of it because they're like, I'm not being associated with this because they got the information properly right. They actually were reading what they were supposed to. But this is also goes back to the schooling system as well. Like there's so many problems with a lot of this stuff because we need
It's a trickle because
yeah,
if you're not educated, then you make assumptions based on what you know, and what you know
exactly.
isn't correct. Like when I was young, I was a punk and
Yeah.
I was into rock. I had some Union Jack flags because I loved
Mhm.
AC/DC, you
Nice.
know. And then so people would come over and they'd be like, why do you have Confederate flag? Well, that's not a Confederate flag. That's a Union Jack flag. They have similar colors and they look kind of
They're
like
very similar,
close.
but
They're
they're
kind of
not the
similar.
same.
They're not the
Yeah.
same thing, man.
From a glance, you think it is, but once you actually look at it, you're like, oh wait, never mind.
Yeah.
But like my favorite band was Bad Religion. Their logo is a cross circled around and slashed out. I
Yep.
got so much flack for that, like growing up. And don't get me wrong, I'm not a religious person. I believe people are great to have faith. Faith is great. I'm not trying to make this into all that, but like that was their symbol. They chose to have that symbol, but they've been doing this since they were 18. They're now what, 50s, 60s or something like
Yeah.
that. They have PhDs. They're teachers. I'm like, there's a big difference from what they were fighting against back then compared to what they're fighting against now, if they are still being very activist wise, but like it's a totally different world. And like once you become a brand, it's hard to change your brand without messing up the brand at the same time. And like if that's your logo and that's the biggest thing that's been going around, you can't really just change it just because like you need to. Um, but yeah, it's a hard one. It's a tough one.
It is. No, I agree.
But yeah, like you're saying though, it trickles down though, like teaching everybody what they need to know. Just being informed is the biggest thing for anybody. Like it doesn't matter what your viewpoint is, as long as you're informed of what you're actually standing up against, and also what if you're informed with what your counterpart is. You have to know what the opposite's going to be saying to you just to be able to either one hold a conversation. That's the biggest one. I've had so many conversations in the past week about everything, just with people alone, and just being informed. And most of the time, it's I don't even know what they're talking about, but I asked them to explain it more, and they come back and they actually explain their viewpoints. Some of them don't. They get really pissed and start like walking away, but they think it's because I'm attacking them. No, I'm trying to learn why they're thinking the way they are.
Right.
Because you knowing that means you can finally come back with more knowledge with them and just also do research of your own and sit there and actually look into what they're doing and why and what they're looking into. Because the one downfall also like with social media and all that too is that we're also in filters. Everybody's going to be in a filter because that's how social media works. If you're saying that you're this religion, this political party, blah 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 blah, Facebook and all them are already sending you certain ads and certain articles already to you, but you're not going to see the other side as prevalent until you actually go digging for all that stuff. Because there was that video a while back. I don't know if you've seen it or not, but there was this guy was very he built two different profiles, had two different computers, so they both weren't tethering off each other or anything like that. And one, he built it to be a very left wing, everything that he like close to everything that he was. He was more on the Democratic side than everything. And then the other side, he built a very racist, like right wing everything, like as dirty as he can make it, and just to see how much he actually got filtered just from these two different sides and the things that he would be sent on the profile that he's not astounded him, because he was getting KKK meetings, he was getting KKK meetups, he was getting people being beaten in the streets by white supremacists, like all these things, and it was terrifying seeing that stuff. I'm like, like one, props to him to actually be able to sit there and watch this, being a man of color and actually trying to do this kind of movement. But it was crazy just watching him, and like when he got to that portion of his video of explaining it, he was actually getting ready to cry just of all the things that was coming back to him of watching all these things. He's like, the media has literally even taken over the internet at the same time, but they have filtered us to only see what you're all about, what you're into, and all that stuff. I mean, it's the same thing. I look up something in comic books. Next thing you know, all my ads that are popping up in random pages are all about comic books. It's all that stuff. But at the same time, like when you can start digging into it and start looking for some of that stuff just to be aware of what's going on and know what's happening in the world, it really opens your brain to a totally different world and actually gets you to understand a lot of different things at the same time. And it doesn't keep you as enclosed into a box that a lot of people are, because the downfall is a lot of people just get comfortable in life. They're happy in one spot. They don't want to change it. But here's the thing, the world is always going to change. We have to help out all the people that are having discretions and all this other things as well. Well, they also need rights as well. Everybody needs rights. We're Americans. We live on a free soil. That's exactly what we all say. We unite, we stand, all that stuff. Everybody needs the exact same rights. You can't just segregate people because of that. Hence why the biggest problems we have right now are ISIS. The BLM marches right now are what we need to keep happening. We need to help out getting all those people out of ISIS detention centers. Don't want to fully make this all political, but we kind of already went there. But like our president's not helping at all either, and like all this crazy stuff that's going on in this world, like we're still segregating everybody.
Yeah.
And it sucks.
It does suck, man.
And I want to change that. And I mean, that's kind of what I've been doing for the past week is one, helping out with that, doing political comics that are getting ready to go live here, hopefully this week coming up and stuff like that. Because as an American and everything as well, like I want to make a difference. I can't just sit here and just sit behind my computer and just type it to everybody every day. Like you got to, like, I want to do something to at least make a point for everybody so we can finally start showing that this world needs to change, because it's not the same. The whole world is doing marches right now. It's the craziest thing I've seen. Even countries that aren't being affected by this are still marching for America because they know how bad it is here with race and with the discrimination and everything. Like, yes, everybody wants to come here because, yes, it is easier for certain countries to come here and make a living and have a much better life than what they were having in their countries. But also, it's crazy when you can think that they're willing to do that and come here and still just get discriminated left and right on any term that they go through, and they're still happier here, which that's a whole nother world that we have to start working on next. But that's just that's I don't know. Sorry,
I
I kind of
agree.
ran, I
No,
went on for a
I
ramble
hear
there.
you, man. No, I hear you. It's definitely something that, it's happening right now. So, it's a
It's
poignant,
very prevalent.
yeah, it's a poignant time in history, to see this going on and to see it gaining so much more momentum than it did previously, and I
Yeah.
think a lot of that has to do with the, um, you know, how it's kind of been increasing over the last 4 years. There's been a lot more incidents and more almost like allowances
Yeah.
from higher uh, influences.
Yeah. No,
It's
you're
kind
right
of
there.
made it seem like it's okay.
Yeah.
And so I think whenever you have someone with that much influence saying it's okay to be this way, you have more people who are
Yes.
acting that way or
Yeah.
following that behavior.
hmm But it's kind of one thing that me and my friend were talking about actually today, right before I jumped on the stream with you. Me and her were talking about it, and we both kind of like, yes, the COVID-19 thing sucks as well. I've known friends that have had it. They said it's the worst thing they've ever gone through. As they said, they'd rather have the flu, things like that. But um, at the same time, like this is kind of a blessing in disguise at the same time because so many people have been furloughed, have been without jobs and that. So they are able to not be worried about being worn down from work every day and worry about everyday life where they can go to these protests and actually, or even help out in any way possible. And that's why we're seeing the numbers, especially in Denver alone right now. Like the numbers are huge. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I went down the first day. That was terrifying. I went down a few days ago when it's finally started becoming peaceful again, and it's a night and day of what it started off as. Like it was super terrifying the first day. I have no many times how many times it was like I feared for my life. But coming out at the last day I've been there, it was the most peaceful protest I've ever seen. The most amount of people I've ever seen in a gathering. Like it literally felt like San Diego Comic Con style of that many people were just hanging out in Denver, all united, standing for one thing, and it was amazing. It was
Yeah.
so cool.
Well, yeah, it's cool to see that you can gather and protest in this capacity on a peaceful level. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be, um, you know,
Gunshots, gassing everybody
yeah,
every five
yeah,
seconds. I'll tell you, the first time you get tear gas sucks. The other ones after that, it's actually not that
yeah.
bad.
No, I was there. Not this time, but back in my younger days,
hmm
we had protested the Columbus Day
Oh
rally,
yeah,
and there
nice.
was I was down at the Columbus Day rally where the KKK came out,
uh-huh.
and it turned pretty ugly. We all got gassed, and
Yeah.
we we were throwing the gas
Throwing everything
canisters back.
back and everything.
Yeah,
Yep. That
it
stuff
was
hasn't
crazy.
changed when it comes down to what they like. What protests have still like? Yes, they're still there. Do I agree with the rioting and the pillaging and all that stuff that they've been doing? No, but that doesn't usually start happening until a certain hour.
Yeah,
And by that time, most of all the peaceful protesters, everybody that's there just for the protest and not just there to make a change for, because the only reason we have a curfew in Denver is because of the protest. If you're walking anywhere else around like outside the Capitol and all that in Denver, cops drive right on by. They don't even
yeah,
care. But if you're down at the Capitol, that's when they care. But that's the only reason why they're also still protesting late at night too, is because they're also standing up for that as well. That is part of the protest. All Blacks Lives Matter.
yeah.
You
Well, and
can't
it
put a
also,
protest on a curfew when you're trying to stop police brutality.
yeah, and it also shows the frustration.
Yeah.
That it's just this building. It's been building for a long time.
Mhm.
But
No, I'm with
yeah.
you there.
So
We can get
getting
off that
back,
if you want.
yeah, just getting back to some lighter topics.
Yeah.
Uh, one more question just before we go.
Yeah.
Do
Ask me
you have
anything.
a favorite commission that you've done or drawing that you've done that you may or may not have got a picture of and you're like, oh man, that was so good. I wish I kept
I do. Give me a second to get my hard drive on my computer.
it.
Yeah. So I enrolled last year into the Academy of Art of San Francisco. I'm all online, so I'm still in Denver and all that stuff right now. Um, Part of me wants to still move out there just because of the opportunities and networking. Because networking for me, I have to be face to face. I do better networking that way. Online gets kind of hard. I mean, Zoom definitely helps. All this stuff, like the way that we can stay connected, is definitely helping within during the pandemic and everything as well. Has been helping a lot. But um, I mean, you've seen what I did with RTG and all that stuff. Like I networked like crazy,
Yeah,
and that's how we got so big, was so many of us were networking, and it was all face to face. I don't think any of us were doing it online. On occasion we get an email, and then we would follow up with an in-person face-to-face meeting, just so we can actually read the person and see if they're actually being genuine and not just trying to play us. Because we were meant, like, our motto at first was to be an independent comic publisher, or just be independent and helping people out. But it also migrated into children as well, and making sure that kids saw us in a good light as well, and always being in a good light because of that. So that one, actually having to read people just so they weren't using us for their own publicity, was the part that I had we'd meet up with people, because I wanted to make sure we weren't just being used in that way. Because, like, there were so many people that will throw kids under the butt, like throw kids on their banner and be like, all right, yep, we're for the kids. But you would look at all their taxes and all those things, because all that stuff's public knowledge, and their money's
right.
not going to any kid organization. So it really confuses me when they say we're for the kids.
Yeah.
So there's that. But give me one second. I need to grab a hook. But yeah, like that one's, and that's for us, like networking in person. I read people better when I'm in person, or if I can see your facial structure and how you're moving your muscles, and also how another one good example is it's how you're moving your face, body language. It's a whole thing. It's a lot of stuff I learned through sales. And sales, it teaches you a lot of different things, and that's what I learned. And doing all that stuff definitely made a difference as well. All right, let's see. So some of the pieces that I've done that I have not posted, and I'm actually super proud of, have actually been all through school this semester.
Nice.
I've done some really cool stuff that have changed my mindset on a lot of different things I've done. Because I'm going for visual development now, which is environmental design, character design for movies, films, animation, video games, anything. You can use it in marketing, advertising, whatever you really want it to. There's so much stuff you can do with it. It's really kind of cool. But let's see here. Let's see. Whoops. Let's go to share screen, right? Yep.
Yep.
Oh, it says you disabled it.
Oh.
Oh, wait. Good thing I did that, because that's not the picture I wanted to show. There we go. That's the picture I'm going to try and show. Let me know when you're ready.
Yeah, you should be able to.
There we go. Let's see. We'll do this way. Can you see the whole thing?
There
Or
we
is
go.
it?
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, this is my final for this semester for my visual development class. It was taking a fairy tale story and creating a scene out of it. This was my representation of Hansel and Gretel in space.
Sweet, man.
Yeah,
That
it's
would
got me
be. I
really
want to
big into
see that.
coloring.
I want to see that story.
I would, right?
Yeah.
Like I started playing with it and I was like, oh, I'm really liking this idea. And then the teacher's like, all right, now you're only going to pick one of your pictures because we had to do a whole storyboard of like 6 different pictures. And I, and he's like, all right, you're going to do this one. I'm like, okay. And I
Yeah, I
started
like
doing
it.
this one and it came out really great. We worked on it together for 3 weeks straight, going from pencils, inks, colors. And then after I got to colors, it started changing even drastically after that. Like I can actually show you here. Let's see here. This is my first rendition of it when I got to colors. You can see how night
Okay.
and day that is.
Yeah.
Totally different. We worked on that thing so much. But another good one I had was, let's see here. My perspective class. I'll tell you right now, any artist that tells you that you need to go back and do the basics, listen to them
Yep.
because after I've been going through all these basic classes again, it's been crazy how much everything I've done has changed. This was my 2 point perspective, which came out really cool,
Oh
and
yeah.
learning values and stuff like that. Because I never, like personally for me, I never really valued my coloring as well. But now that I've been doing all this stuff and learning values and all that other stuff, like I'm actually super comfortable with doing colors now, and I can actually do colors for people.
That's
But
awesome.
our final, which I thought was very funny, was actually a comic book page. And I was laughing about it because I was like, oh, great. I'm back in comics. But that was my final
Oh,
for that
sweet.
one.
Oh, that looks great, man.
Yeah. It came out really good. I was actually really impressed with it. I did a lot of cool stuff. The lighting was my favorite part. All these different things I could do with it. So,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
that is nice.
Yeah. Like, you've seen my stuff before. Like, your daughter has it on her wall. But,
Yeah.
and now you can see what I can do now. Like, it's what? In a matter of 4 semesters, like, I've completely not changed, but I've done so much different stuff and
Well,
like
it's
doing a
always,
bunch of cool
you
stuff.
can always learn. You
Exactly.
can never stop learning, and the
Mhm.
more you uh, bring that education into your work, the better your work. So, yeah, this is
Yeah.
great. I can't wait to see what else you have coming in the future.
Yeah, I'm gonna hopefully get all this stuff up and we'll here shortly and whatnot. But they also like taught me different things as well that I never thought of. Like certain grid patterns and whatnot, like isometric grids were a thing I never understood, like made sense of. But that's isometric is you see it a lot in video games.
Yeah,
Like top down view, everybody's looking down at everything. A lot of RPGs are this way. A lot of mobile games, I guess, could be that way as well. Diablo,
yeah,
like big name games, they do it too. And I'm like, it was really, it was that was the part that I really enjoyed about this whole class and course. And the teachers were actually teachers, if that makes sense.
yeah. No,
When
it
I,
definitely makes
yeah,
sense because a lot of times you can, especially in art, because it's effective, you can get someone who or get a professor that is more interested in their interest and what they like, and they tend to, instead of actually teaching you your basics or teaching you what they should be teaching, they're teaching you their
exactly.
opinions. Yeah.
And that's actually one reason I'm glad I found the school I'm in now is because I think the statistic I found, or I was talking with someone, is like at least 80% of their teachers still work in the industries that they
Um,
teach. So in their fashion design, the teachers are actually still working in the fashion industry. The teachers in the visual development department are working for Disney, Blizzard. Um, God, I had my last teacher I just had for this class. He works for Disney right now, and I think he's actually working for Lucasfilms, not Lucasfilms, but the Star Wars side because he's a huge Star Wars nut. I love the shit
wow,
out. He's hilarious.
that's
Uh,
awesome.
we've had a few conversations about that, but he's great. My other teacher, he's been around. My perspective class teacher, he's been around for since like the '80s and manga and stuff like that. And like it was like he's worked for Viz Media and all these Sony, all these big name companies. Like they have right before you get them as a teacher, they send you what their itinerary is. So you
Yeah.
know when they're busy, when they're not, like when they're off of work, when they can actually talk to you, because they're still working their job too while they're teaching us, which I think is
Right.
the most coolest thing in the world. And like, yeah, there's some weeks, don't get me wrong, there's been some weeks where they can't get back to you when they say they can, but that's because they're on deadlines.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
for us
Definitely.
to actually, the students alone, yes, I know it sucks for us, but we also have to understand it as well, because in an industry standard, deadlines are always going to be the biggest thing in your world. If you cannot meet your deadlines of what your art director tells you what to do, or any director that you're working with tells you what to do, you could easily be cut that same day. You're like, all right, cool. Well, you're done. You know, if you don't want to do the job, have a great day. We're not going to have you around anymore. It happens all the time. But that's the thing with them. Like, they teach us as they are our instructors, as they are our art directors. They tell us how everything works. Even at the same time, is like, if your art director is going to ask you to do this, this is how you have to do this. If they want this kind of style, guess what? You're drawing that kind of style. But guess what? That's how you get the money. That's how you put the bread on the table. But here's the other best part: you're drawing for a living, because that's what you really wanted to do. I'm like, he's not wrong. You always are going to have a boss, even if you are independent, as an independent artist and all that, and doing commissions. You always have a boss. Whoever's commissioning you is technically your boss,
Yeah.
because you got to make that money. And if it's not coming up to their standards, yeah, they may still pay you for that job for that one time, but they're never going to come back to you. And that's the realization a lot of people also have to come to as well, is that if you're not going to work with people that you have to work with, you see this all the time on the con floors, and all the time with a lot of new starting artists, that they don't understand that you have to communicate with your clients and just be honest with them. That's the biggest one, is just being honest. Like, any person I have a client with that is headhunting me or trying to get me to do stuff with them, I always tell them what my itinerary is. At first, I'm like, hey, like right now, this week's going to be a crazy week. I'm going to let you know right now. It's not because of my work schedule, but because of how Denver's running right now. Like, and I work a day job, I work graveyards, all these crazy things. Like, I list out everything just so they know what they're coming into, and not expecting, oh yeah, you're an artist, you're working this 24/7, right? Oh, you're going to get this done by tomorrow. I'm like, that's not happening. If I was doing this full time, yeah, I can get this done by tomorrow, but I'm not. I'm
Right.
still the artist, the same artist as we all are when we start. We're working a day job, we're trying to make it happen, we're going to school, we're doing all these different things. Like, we also have lives. A lot of artists have families too. They
Yeah.
don't. There's so many people I listen to or talk to now that they still only work 9 to 5, because they have a family and they have to stop once their kids come in the door from school, or they have to go pick their kids up from school, and then next thing after that, they have to be a dad or they have to be a mom. They can't just sit there and draw like they used to when they didn't have families.
Right.
And a lot of people still don't understand that from an artist aspect. They just think that we sit there and draw until our hands bleed, which some do. There are some that do, but you also got to take care of yourself. You got to do exercise. You got to do all these different crazy different things, and it's making that realization. Some people, yes, are faster than others, but is it the quality that you're wanting, or is it the speed that you're wanting? And that's what you're going to be paying for.
It's finding your balance and knowing your limitations. Yeah.
Exactly. Like, there's one guy I follow all the time, and he told me he used to work for Blizzard and all these big name companies, and he actually had to quit, because he said he quit because he's like, I work too slow for those industries.
Yeah.
Those industries want stuff daily. You have to be able to pop out artwork daily. Like, they tell you they want a concept design for a bedroom. You have to have 6 of those within an hour or two to send over to your director, because you only have 8 hours of your day. Sometimes more, you have to take it home and whatnot. But you only have 8 hours to get a decent concept out, so you can start sending it off to your modelers and send it off to all these other people. Same thing with comics as well. You have a month to push out a comic in most industries. DC and Marvel, their monthly series, you have a month to push out 25 pages, and it's not just you working on those pages. A lot of comics have 3 to 5 people on them. You have your letterer, your editor, your colorist, and all these different people all over it that have their own steps. and you have
Yeah.
to even work even
And
faster to get those to the next step.
right. Yeah, they're waiting on you just so they can get
Hmm.
their deadline in, then it goes to the next
Exactly.
person. Yeah, it's
In
tough,
any
man.
industry, it's always been the same way. You have
Yeah.
to, it's the first person has to keep it going, and everybody else afterwards has to keep rolling as well. And it's like everybody, there's always going to be a deadline, and if you can't meet it, you will be replaced. And that's
Yeah.
the realization you have to realize as well, especially in this industry, because I mean, I really say this is as an end in indie in the industry. You're always going to be replaceable. That's the downright down to the point. Even if you are more valuable than if you are more valuable than everybody else, you are less replaceable. But there is always another job that you could always probably making more money, or getting something else out of it and whatnot, other better stuff. It may not be ideal at the time, but if something does happen, you can easily move into something. It's not the thing that you're wanting, but it is the opportunities. And the opportunity is always the thing that's going to get you even farther in life. I always say, if you can get that opportunity, and yes, if you can just just deal with it for like just like for a few months. A few months is all most places are asking, just so you can get that experience, just to even roll it over to a new company. And that new company will hire you on just for those few months of experience of whatever that is you're trying to do, just because it shows that you did something.
Right.
And that's the whole point of it. But like, it's crazy. I don't know. I can go on
Yeah.
for hours about all these
No,
different
yeah,
things.
I hear you, man.
This is just
So
me coming from like business and comic books, being an artist, being a salesman, all these different things and skills I've acquired have all led up to all these different things that I know. And I like sharing with people. All you have to do is ask, because if not, you might just get me rambling sometimes, which has happened once or twice, I think. But I feel like it might be good information. Someone might not know about all this stuff, and they actually might stumble across this and actually learn more. So,
yeah. No, it was a great conversation. It's great talking to you,
yeah,
Colton. Great seeing you.
anytime. You
Haven't seen
too.
you for a while. Is there anything you want to plug? Anything you want to put out there?
All my stuff is coltsart.com or anywhere with Colts Art. So it's COLTSART.com. That's my actual website, email and all that there. My links are there as well. I primarily surf Facebook and Instagram are my two. I have a Twitter. I kind of mess with that one a little bit, but it gets kind of rough trying to manage all of them. I have a Tumblr. I don't use it. I'm I just have it there because it's there, because I thought maybe one day I might go into it, but it's a dead thing. It just Instagram lets me just post things to it, so I just do that just for fun.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, website, email. Email is always the fastest way to get a hold of me, because I sit at a computer all day at work anyway, so I have my email up and I can instantly reply to people left and right.
Nice.
Facebook's another fast way because everybody has their phone on them. So, but yeah,
So, with all your busy stuff going on right now, are you taking any commissions or are you kind of on hold with that?
actually, yes, I have. The only reason I've been taking the commissions now is because they're political statements,
Okay.
and those are going to be out hopefully this week or
Awesome.
next week, since we're at the end of the week. But yeah,
Nice.
we're hoping to get some of those out. There is some uncomfortable content, just for warnings for people there if you do find them. But at the same time, any video you're watching right now that's going on in the world, it's all going to be uncomfortable. And I really do feel that if you're still trying to hide from what's really happening in the world, that's one of the problems that we're having right now. And showing people that you have to be aware of, this is what's actually going on in your front door or on your lawn and in your backyard. Like, this is the stuff that happens every day. And it's very been uncomfortable for me to draw some of it, but at the same time, the things I'm drawing is public knowledge. It is, we can literally go in a database and pull all this stuff out, and you can see everything I'm drawing and actually be aware of everything that you're seeing. Yes, I'm going to get a lot of flack from my family. I do know I will. Um,
Well, I think
but
everyone has family like that.
yeah,
We
I've
do
been
as
fighting with some
well.
of them. I've been fighting with
Yeah.
a lot of them for the past
It's
week now.
it's tough and it creates some um definitely some walls between family members, but I think it's something that everybody has to see. So, I can't
Exactly. I
wait
know
to
I'll
see
lose
it.
followers. I know I'll
Yeah.
lose friends, but if they're still following me and just muted me or whatnot, like I just want people like that's kind of one reason. If you are on my Facebook, there is a warning. You are going to see a lot of political stuff on there right now with everything going on. And if you agree, awesome. If you don't, that's up to you. If you still stay with friends with me, I hope you start reading a lot of the articles I'm posting. Throw me back some of the stuff that you have because I want to know what you're thinking. I want to know where you're coming from. I'm not going to lie. I'm probably going to throw some more stuff back at you. It's how my whole week's been. I've been throwing things back and forth. But the more that we're all informed, the better I think the outcome of everything that's going to happen here at the end.
I
I know
agree.
it's not going to happen by the end of this week. It's probably going to take months from now, but we are seeing change already, and it's only been a week.
Yeah, yeah, it's
And I'm
awesome.
hoping it keeps going.
Yeah, definitely. All right.
Yeah,
Well,
guys,
good
it
talking to
was
you,
great talking to you,
man.
man.
All
We'll have
right.
we can do this again sometime.
Yeah, yeah. Hit me up. I'd love to.
Yeah, anytime.
All right.
Cool. Say hi to your family for me.
Will do. Bye.
All right, take care.
You too.